Hey, this is Overpass Insights. My name is Eric and I make apps. But today, we're not going to talk about apps. Today, it's Veterans Day. So I want to talk a little bit about what the Army has done for me. Okay, so like I said, today is Veterans Day in the United States. Veterans Day is the day that we celebrate those who have served in or are serving in the armed forces. So before I say anything else, I just want to say to all of those of you who have served or are serving in the military, regardless of what country it is, regardless of which military it is, thank you for your service. Because regardless of what your politics are, one of the reasons we consider veterans to be heroes is because they've taken their lives and put it on hold in service of something greater than themselves. They could have done something else. They could have gone to university, or they could have gone and got a job, but they're doing their duty for their country, whichever country that is. So thank you. Now, as you can see, I was in the military. I was in the Army for 4 years, from 1990 to 1994. I don't talk about it that often. I don't give it enough credit for how it's formed my life going forward, right? And one of the reasons I don't talk about it that much is because, when I tell people I was in the Army, they kind of think, this whole combat, and he's seen things, man. But no, I was a linguist. They sent me to school to learn Chinese, Mandarin, and then later on to learn Vietnamese. So while there's other soldiers out there who are hardcore and they could set up a claymore mine or overtake an enemy camp, right? I could conjugate verbs, but still, even then, there's lots of different jobs in the military. It still had a profound impact on me. Now, last year, it's actually happened a couple times, but I remember specifically last year, somebody asking me, saying in the comments, they said, Eric, I'm thinking about joining the military. And he said something about doing what I did, join the military and then go into software afterwards. And I thought it was a strange thing to say. It was like, well, they don't really correlate. It's not like you don't need the military to go into software. It was just sort of like, that was just what I did out of school. But thinking about it afterwards, there's a lot of things in my life that I don't think I could have done if I hadn't taken that decision to actually join back in the day. So the military has given me a lot of things in terms of skills. Like I said, they sent me to school to learn Chinese. There was everything else, but there's 3 major areas where it made a huge impact on my life, where I don't think I would be where I am now, anywhere near that, if I hadn't actually done that time to serve straight out of school. So there's 3 different areas. I'm just going to go through them very quickly. And like I said, I was not, I didn't see combat. I didn't, I was a linguist. When I joined in 1990 and I left in 94 as a sergeant. So I went in as an E1, left as a sergeant. So the first area it improved my life was in discipline. So when I was in high school, I barely made it through high school, right? I went to summer school every single year. My grades were it was very rare when I got a C. I had a lot of D's. I should show you my report card because it sounds like it's an exaggeration, but I barely made it through. I went to school, I went to summer school to keep making up courses, and it wasn't that I wasn't smart. It wasn't because I wasn't smart, although at the time I thought that was the case. I thought I just wasn't as smart as everybody else, but it was mainly because I just I would skip school a lot. I didn't go. I would just, I never did homework. It was easier to think of an excuse why you didn't do your homework than it was to actually do the homework. So I barely scraped by. I was working at McDonald's, and I worked at McDonald's for 3 years as a teenager, from 16 to, I guess it was 2 years, 16 to 18, in San Diego, and then we moved to Massachusetts. So I was working there, and university was not an option, right? Where I knew a lot of people who were going off to school, going off to college. That was not an option for me. I didn't even investigate it. I never took any tests. I never applied anywhere. It was just, I knew that I knew at the core of my being that I was not smart enough to go to university. For some reason, I just was convinced of that. All right, so my whole thing was I could either continue working at the McDonald's that I work at, or maybe I could get a job somewhere else after high school. And that was I was just thinking maybe I could get a job where I could make enough to get an apartment at some point. But my dad kind of, I wouldn't say he pushed me, but he was kind of like, the military is an option. You could go in, join the Navy, and I spoke to different recruiters, and I joined the delayed entry program in the Army. And so I had like 6 months through high school to decide whether or not I'm actually gonna go in. Even though I'd taken the oath and technically I was in the delayed entry program, it was still possible to get out of it. And I think I changed my mind every single day about whether or not I wanted to go in. I was thinking, it wouldn't be so bad. Maybe if I keep working at McDonald's, I could become an assistant manager or something like that, and I could move in with somebody or whatever. Maybe that wouldn't be so bad. But in the end, I think the reason I was very timid and very shy as a teenager, right? I was that one who just would never I would rather be uncomfortable than raise my hand to say I wanted to go to the bathroom. So having joined the Army and going to basic training, it was a culture shock. I mean, you got people screaming in your face, running, the push-ups, the grass drills, the insults, just the horribleness of it. So you go through 8 weeks of basic training, at least back in the 90s. I think it's still the same. You go through 8 weeks of basic training with everybody together. We had 80 people in our platoon, so we were all going through that. And then afterwards, some people went off to infantry school, some people went off to whatever their jobs are, and I went off to Defense Language Institute in California to learn my language, which I was told by the recruiters would probably be Russian. I said I wasn't going to go in unless they would teach me Russian, because apparently I was good at learning languages, which I told them I wasn't. I literally failed French in school. I failed the semester of French that I took. So they sent me to school to learn Chinese Mandarin in the end. And I found out at the end of basic training, after all of the pushing and the mud and just all of it, and then to get to the end and think now you're gonna go and learn Chinese. And I was like, dude, I can't learn Chinese. I was like, I felt like a fraud through all of it. First of all, so one of the big reasons that led to discipline was you can't quit. I mean, you probably could quit, but it would just been a nightmare to do. I will tell you for a fact that if I could have quit the Army on day 1, I would have. If I could have quit it on day 10, I would have. If I could have quit it 6 months in, I probably would have, right? And it kind of bothers me that was the way that I thought before. It's like, this is too hard, this is not for me, this is for other people. And even when I went into the Army, first thing I thought was, I made a huge mistake. This is for other people. Some people everybody seemed more confident, they seemed larger, they seemed stronger, they seemed like they could do a lot more, and I was just little old Eric, and I just can't keep up with all of them. But you can't quit. And there's one thing that anybody in the military knows, is that a drill sergeant will show you that when you think you can't push anymore, when you're like on your last push-up, you think, that's it, that's all I can do, they can make you do more. They're in your face, they're pushing you harder than you think you could go, and it's, sometimes I think in retrospect how much I hated my drill sergeants. I hated them, but in the end they made me stronger going forward. And even in the learning Chinese, sending me to learn Chinese where I had no interest in it, was not something that I was excited to learn, and to go to Chinese class and to pick up those books and do these kind of things, which, like I said, I did not consider myself to be a smart person. I was definitely not capable. I knew I was not capable of learning this, but quitting was not an option. I could rock out, I could fail, but I couldn't quit. And sometimes I think I never would have learned that language if it wasn't for that. To this day, there are times where I'm trying to learn something technical. Like I said, when I did go and transition into IT, and you try to read a book where everything seems to be over your head, you're thinking, this is not for me, this is something for somebody else, I'm not capable of learning this. It's when you think you have that option of quitting, that's when you give up. Because eventually something clicks. Eventually something goes in, even if you have to work harder at it than other people do. And that's something that I definitely learned from the Army, and it's something that I noticed with people around me. I try to hire somebody to do a job, and I said, okay, you could learn this, and how many, at least a half dozen times in the last couple of years I've heard, Eric, I just don't have that kind of brain. I'm just not that kind of thinker. Eric, I just can't do that. It's like, that's just BS, You just, it's that readiness to quit, right? And there's always a readiness to quit in everything I do now, but I always remember back to that, being able to push myself. And if it wasn't for that, I don't know where I would be now. I don't know where that McDonald's assistant manager career path would have led me. Maybe I would have gone to school eventually, maybe I wouldn't, maybe I would have, who knows, but whatever. The second thing that the Army gave me was physical fitness, right? So in high school, we had PE. PE to me was like, I know they talked about it's important to be fit, it's important to be healthy, but like it just went over my head. I didn't care, because it seemed to me PE class was that 1 hour out of the day where you went and put on the stinky clothes you wore yesterday. You go out into the field, you play basketball or whatever. They pick captains, and then they pick teams. And I know it sounds like a cliche, but I was always one of the last people picked, right? It was just this thing where you thought, physical fitness is for other people. That's not for me. I would rather read a book or watch TV if it was available. I would rather do anything else than that. It was like my least favorite class, right? That was a place where those people who are really competitive could go out and do their really competitive stuff, and I could just try to like pretend like I'm participating, but really just stay out of the way. I hated it. I hated it with a passion, right? Even today when I'm watching somebody give a business speech and they go, well, my team knows that when I get the basketball, I'll do whatever it takes to win, because I'm a winner, I'm a competitor, right? And I'm like, give me a break, right? Yeah, it's so I always thought that physical fitness wasn't for me. And in the Army, I was, again, you have to. Like if you can't stay physically fit, they could throw you out, right? So it was, for me, my love of running, so doing push-ups and sit-ups and all that kind of stuff, that never really, and strength training, that didn't really stick with me after the Army, but running did. Because running was something that was solitary. It was something that I did not so I could stay fit and healthy, but just so I could be on my own, just get clear with my thoughts. And that's something that stuck with me for ages. It was only recently that I started going to the gym again. But the appreciation of physical fitness, that was the other thing. And then the third thing, and I know this is a long video and I'm rambling on, the third thing it gave me was confidence. Like I said, I was a quiet kid in school. I was the one who, I just don't want to bother anybody, don't want to say anything to anybody. I want to look the same as everybody else. I just want to blend in. I just, as long as, the teacher calling on me was the worst thing ever. Giving a speech in front of the class was like death. Like when they force you to do that, you're like, why do they make you do that, right? And I just wanted to fade into the background. I just didn't want to do anything, right? Now, I wish I could say the Army gave me super confidence. It didn't, but it definitely improved things. It was that case of, it taught me to not stay in my lane. I mean, one thing, the Army is very regimented, so like, they tell you where to go, they tell you what to eat, they tell you what to wear, all that kind of stuff. But when you get out and you don't have that anymore, then you start realizing that everybody else around you is softer than you are. So I went from the Army. By the way, my whole thing was, after 4 years, I was in with people who, some of them wanted to stay in for 20 years or make it their career. Some people were like, they definitely wanted to get out in 4, and I was on the fence. I got my sergeant's stripes towards the end because I thought I was going to make a career of it, and then when I did get out, it was like I wasn't quite sure if I was making the right decision, right? I thought maybe I should have stayed in for the rest of my life, which in retrospect, I'm glad I didn't, right? I was able to do a lot more things, but getting out and going to university, like I said, I was a guy who was not very smart, right? They proved to me, basically because I could never quit, that I was smarter than I thought I was, that I could do something if I applied myself. And even just applying yourself a little bit, even just like a little bit more than others do, it puts you above and beyond everyone else, right? So I know this is a bit of a long rambling video, and I know it's very, I just wanted to it's easy to talk about the military and the veterans and their heroes and everything like that, and like, you know, and like I said, we consider them heroes because they give their lives to a greater cause. But we also get a lot from it. I got a lot from it, and like I said, for what it's worth, I was a linguist. You know, I did my job. I learned what I had to learn. I did what I had to do, and I couldn't quit. And that was what made me who I am today. Anyway, again, I want to say thanks to everybody who served in the military. For those of you who have served and want to put in the please put in the comments, you know, what it did for you, if you're still in, you know, how it's improved your life, or you know, how it's improved it, or if it hasn't improved it. And anyway, sorry for the long rambling video today. That is it for today. I will talk to you again next time.